Hello, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join me as we talk to industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favourite TV and radio personalities, asking the renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. In this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by John Grimes, the Chief Executive of the Smart Energy Council. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, Rosh, really well.
Mate, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you're a very busy man.
No, fantastic. Love your work and really important to get the message out about the important work the whole industry is doing.
Mate, good man. Thank you so much. Well, I've got a few questions for you today. As you know, we are largely a resource educating the Australian public and those in the industry on the latest and greatest developments in the renewable energy space, as well as connecting consumers to some of the best retailers around the country. Our goal is a zero carbon future. So the more we can do to help people get to net zero, the better. Inside of that, we often get asked a number of different inquiries and questions from our readers and consumers, of which we're formulated into a few questions, which I hope you can help us with. So nothing too curly today. Let me know. Okay.
I've been in the fight for for 15 years now, actually, in this role, and I don't think there's much you could put at me that's been curlier than some of those situations. So completely relaxed and ready to go.
That sounds like a challenge to me, John. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. We'll have some fun. Well, as you just said there, look, we've obviously met a few times, and not surprisingly, because you have been the Chief Executive of the Smart Energy Council now since 2008, I believe. But for those who don't know you, can you outline your career prior to the Smart Energy Council and also what originally attracted you to the position?
Yeah, great, Rosh. I might actually start with my why before we go into kind of the biography.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's all about the climate emergency. It's about the existential problem of climate change and how it's going to impact on everybody. So my view is that you get good policy, a strong industry, and strong community support. And if you have those three things, then we can shift the dial really quickly and in a very substantial way on the problem of climate, right? That's why I do this, because I actually think that those three things are the easiest and quickest way to addressing dangerous climate change. And a huge shout out to all of your viewers, the mums and dads, the families, small businesses around the country that have taken action or are considering taking action, right? You'd have to have rocks in your head, Roshan, not to have solar on your rooftop, and consider a solar battery. Think about your electrification of your home or your business. Think about the electric vehicle that you might drive. These are very real and tangible things that will slash your power, energy, gas, and petrol bills. And they'll actually contribute to actually solving the problem of climate. So that's worth putting out there. Rosh, coming back to your original question, I began my career, I spent about a decade as an officer in the Royal Australian Air Force. Wow. And that taught me about, leading people. It taught me about working in large organisations. I had command of 430 people at one stage in that role at a very, very young age. And that was fantastic. I'd actually encourage young people to actually spend a little bit of time in the military. It's a really great start. I then became a diplomat. And I actually served overseas in Australian embassies in the region and long-term in Myanmar, the old, what used to be known as Burma, as well as in Papua New Guinea short-term and Japan and other places. So I understand how government works. I understand how politicians make their decisions. I understand the international aspect of our relationship in the region. And then I really went into startup companies. So I'm kind of a startup company guy. I co-founded a technology company that we took from startup to listing on the Australian Stock Exchange, had a valuation of over $30 million in listing. We did that over a couple of years. And I got an MBA in real world business experience, Rosh. So it was about, learning how do you do this? How do you what's the share register? How do you innovate with your product? How do you make sure you look after your customers? I then moved from that company and founded an environmental company. It was a water purification technology. So this is the time of the great millennial drought. Technology commercialised out of the Australian National University. We had 25 employees. We were doing about $10 million in revenue a year. And then, of course, the global financial crisis came. So at a time when you could buy, Commonwealth Bank shares at $10 a share, Imagine that today.
Oh.
People weren't investing in a speculative startup. So we did a trade sale. It was okay. We covered off, but it wasn't the exit that I'd hoped for. And I saw advertised an organisation called the Australia New Zealand Solar Energy Society, right? And this is an organisation formed in 1954, and they were looking for their first professional part-time CEO. So I applied, got the role, and mate, the rest is history.
What lured you into the industry in the first place? Of course, being in the army and seeing the world and in those roles, you'd have seen a wide range of environments, right?
Roshan, wash your mouth out, mate. I was in the Air Force, not the Army, So
we're
the guys that would meet up in the bar at night time and drink, at the end of a day's fighting. So it was.
I've heard about the rivalry.
But it's a great question, right? Because it doesn't seem like a natural thing, like kind of military to this. Like that doesn't kind of really compute. Look, for me, I really got an exposure really about the environmental problems when I was in that water purification company. And it was clear to me, as soon as I saw solar, this is the 2007, 2008, I just looked at this technology and I said, this is going to change the world. Like the economics were so compelling. The technology was so fantastic. The solar technology used on people's rooftops, Rosh, was invented here in Australia, University of New South Wales. I was rubbing shoulders with the people who invented solar technology.
Wow.
Concentrating solar thermal, solar hot water technology, right? And so I was hooked because it does two things. It saves money and it helps fix the climate. Like, what other part of the industry would you want to be in? So once I was hooked, I was in, and I've been in ever since.
Mate, you and I have got such a similar outlook on our industry and the reasons we got into it. So I knew we'd bond, mate. I knew we would. John, one of the things I love about the Smart Energy Council is how proactive and hands-on you guys are. Would you mind just sharing with us a few of the goals the SEC has and the actions that you take in the Australian renewable energy and solar industry?
Yeah, fantastic. So really, the first part of our thinking is to make sure that we get good long-term outcomes for consumers. We want people to install solar, batteries, heat pump, induction cooktops, reverse cycle air conditioning, to go through the electrification journey and have a really good experience in doing that. So that we've got professional people who are selling professional, good quality products, well-educated, well supported. And so that really is the focus for us. Because if you don't have that as a foundation, then how do you build a multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar industry actually globally? So that's the first point. The second point is we need good government policy. And we've seen in Australia, unfortunately, this whole sector has become an ideological football. And that's really unhelpful because actually the engineering is compelling. The economics is compelling, right? This shouldn't be a matter of ideology. But unfortunately, Rosh, it has been, and it continues to be in the Australian landscape. Now, what we found out, when I was here in 2011, 2012, 2013, I just thought, they just haven't seen the reports. They just don't know how good this technology is and what it's going to do. But it wasn't a matter of facts. It was a matter of a political belief, essentially. And so we knew early that if we did not stand up and fight for our industry, then our industry would be destroyed. It was the target because there are very powerful vested interests in the existing fossil fuel industry. It's like the tobacco industry of the 1970s. They'll do everything they can to keep selling year in, year out, right? So for us, we knew that if we didn't stand up, if we weren't potent, if we couldn't demonstrate that the community was on our side, and that if you're a drongo when it comes to renewable policy, then people will not vote for you. Right? That's been really, really important to our work. And thirdly, it's about supporting industry. That's about technical training, standards. It's about really raising the bar so that, we get the best outcomes for everyone.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, one of the things I find, and look, I purposely, sort of just focus more on consumers for the real reason that I can make an impact, and it's just free flowing. What really frustrates me, and I can only imagine how frustrating it must be for yourselves and others in the industry at that level, is just the changes of government and the changes of ideas and the changes of policy. And it's almost like every 4 years, you're kind of almost having to sort of go back to zero again and restart that process of that communication. I mean, do you find there is a recurring progression with mindset of, with new government? or do you almost find as the government shifts and changes, it's almost like, okay, one step back and then a couple steps forward?
Look, really, the incredible thing around, this whole debate is that while the federal government previously was really anti-renewables, the states and territories, regardless of their political persuasion, New South Wales was a Liberal government, for example, Tasmania, other places, South Australia's been a Liberal government, were all on board because they knew they ultimately are responsible for energy. And they knew what the engineering and the economics said, right? I tell you, Malcolm Turnbull was Prime Minister, kind of saw it as well, right? It was so compelling. But unfortunately, so that was great. So I would say that we're definitely moving forward, no question. But there are some setbacks. And I think, to see the federal opposition talking for a moratorium, basically stopping all large-scale solar and wind. They're running this big renewables rally in Canberra next week. Let's see what happens there. Their whole push is let's not do renewables. Let's do nuclear and keep coal in place until nuclear can save the day, right? So this isn't over. But also, in places like New South Wales, we've actually seen, this is a Labor government, a massive step backwards in my view, Rosh, right? This is actually a government that, is actually not as strong as the former Liberal Party government was. So for us, it's not about political affiliation, it's about policy outcomes. That's what's important. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And look, we could talk about that subject for hours because I'm equally as passionate as you, and I just it frustrates the crap at me. So I'm glad you're doing, you guys are doing that job as well as like the CEC. Quick question.
Mate, you've got to wash your mouth out again. The CEC, the smart.
I'm about to ask you a controversial question, and I'm sure
let me preempt your question. Let me say this. We stand up and fight for the community. We stand up and fight for our industry, right? Because if you're not, I'll tell you, I learned this lesson, Rosh. You might recall in 2011, the O'Farrell government in New South Wales wanted to retrospectively tear up the feed-in tariff contracts with people, right? People had spent thousands, retirees, single parents, right, had spent thousands of dollars putting solar on the rooftop on the basis that they'd get a feed-in tariff from the state government. And then they said, well, no, we're going to tear up that contract, right? So that was diabolical. And I sat down with the then former opposition leader in New South Wales, a Liberal Party person. I won't name him, just for form. But he sat down with me and he said, John, political parties are organised crime. He said, if you cannot hurt them, then you don't matter. Yeah. Rosh, never a truer word has been spoken. If you can't hurt them, then you don't matter, right? And so we will stand up and inflict real, genuine electoral pain, right, on those that stand against us. And we will stand up and support those that want to advance the cause. So the punchline is, Rosh, we are potent, we are fighters, and we win.
I love it. All right, mate. Brilliant stuff. Let's move on to net zero. So, look, I think our goals and everyone's goals, and definitely including yours, is that we want to see Australia become a global green, clean, energy superpower. And the current federal government appears to be a step in the right direction. What are the three critical actions which need to be taken now for that to happen, and also for us to achieve this, 82% renewable energy target we have for 2030?
Three big things on the go. The first is the large-scale build-out of renewables has really stalled, and we've got to get that back on track. And the good news is the federal government accepted the Smart Energy Council policy recommendation for the Clean Energy Investment Scheme. Now, this has been announced. This is going to support the build-out of 34 gigawatts. It's massive, Rush. It's massive. 34 gigawatts of new large-scale wind, solar and battery technology between now and 2030, right? So every 6 months, there'll be a reverse auction, right? And the first one starts in April, right? Only a couple of months away. The second one is fuel efficiency standards. So this is about making sure that we've got efficient vehicles. When you buy a new vehicle, you're going to buy a more efficient vehicle. The big car companies have very inefficient models and very efficient models. They sell the efficient ones to Europe and to Japan and to America and basically every other country in the world except Russia and Australia, right? Because we don't have any standards here, right? And they send us the old clunkers. They love sending us the old clunkers because they amortize the cost of those decades ago, right? So it's really cheap. They make massive profits on those ones. The problem is they're very energy inefficient. So it means every week when you turn up at the Bowser to fill up your car, you're going to pay more in petrol costs. Big profit for the car companies, big cost for you and your household budget, right? That has to be fixed. That's urgent, right? That has to be fixed. And we call on the federal government to fix that urgently. The third component is the rooftop space. Now, the rooftop space it continues to boom, right? Another 2023 was another record year for rooftop solar in Australia, right? Australians get it. They're voting with their, and why wouldn't you, Rosh? Because you can put on a solar system and you'll be paying an effective rate for that electricity amortized over 20 years of 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Your alternative is to buy it from the grid at maybe 34 cents per kilowatt hour, right? So it's just an absolute no-brainer, you know. Now, my message to the federal government is let's turbocharge that work. We can do even more. And the great news, we've got installers in every part of the country. Every town and city across the country that can hire another apprentice, can put on another van, and can be out there installing more solar literally overnight, right? So let's do that. As we get bogged down in the big transmission questions and offshore wind farms and all, which is important, right? Important. But don't forget that we can do a lot with rooftop solar, and we should.
No, and look, on that note as well, I completely agree. I mean, the small-scale renewable energy scheme is coming to an end, I believe, in 2030. And as we approach that date, you know, the number of STCs assigned is obviously going to decrease all the way down to zero. What impact do you expect that will have on our sort of push, Australia's push for rooftop solar, as well as, you know, the addition of batteries and other renewable energy tech as those subsidies and incentives draw to a close?
Look, I think, you know, the good news is that solar's come down the cost curve so dramatically. You know, I mean, when I started to buy a watt of capacity, wholesale was about $2.80 US, right, to buy a watt of capacity. Today, it's about 17 cents, right? We're not talking about a small change, it's massive, right? So the good news is solar is very economic. Now, should there continue to be some support? There should be, right? Because it's the cheapest things that families can do to slash their power bills. But the focus really should go on to things like solar batteries, getting them down the cost curve, right? And that will happen with take-up and with scale. So, and the other home electrification things like heat pump hot water, you know, and other things that households can do. There should be support. Now, there's a downside of the small scale scheme winding up in 2030, and that is that we've developed very, very professional and safe industry, right? Very well regulated, right? People are very well trained and supported, and that whole accreditation process is really important. It's one of the reasons why Australia wins the gold medal when it comes to, globally, rooftop solar. Almost 4 million solar households now across the country. Absolutely amazing for a country of sort of 26 million people, right? So, you know, and we want that to continue. So you know, we need to retain the best of it, but not the unnecessary regulation, you know, and you know, because as you say, for a small business owner, you know, there's a lot of stuff to do. So if we can reduce the impact on them, but retain the benefit for consumers, then I think we will have landed in the right place.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. And look, I think, you know, if we could design, or if you could design the ideal path forward for Australia to move away from fossil fuel reliance, what would that look like?
So the first thing that I would do, the big hit is this: I would subsidise solar batteries. Because what happens today is you've got your solar system, it's pushing all this energy into the grid at 2, 3 in the afternoon when you're at work or you're at school, right? And the grid is overwhelmed with electricity. Electricity in the middle of the day in Australia is so cheap because we've got so much solar, right? Harness that, store it so that people can use it between sort of 5 and 9 at night. That is the most expensive energy, right? That can be up to 10 times more expensive to buy that electricity than during the middle of the day. So let people take that really cheap zero carbon energy and use it to get them through the evening peak. That would do two things. One, it's going to slash their power bills further. And two, it's going to slash power bills for every electricity customer in the country, right? This is fantastic because you're taking demand off at that really expensive time. The cost savings to everybody is probably more than anything you'll invest into a solar battery scheme. So it's a win-win-win, right? That's what I would do. I would kickstart that. I think that's really needed now. So that's one simple initiative. Look, there's plenty of others, but that's where I'd start.
I completely agree. You're going to save a fortune as well on upgrades of infrastructure, because our infrastructure just can't handle the amount of solar that's coming back into it, hence the limitation and the capping and whatnot. So for me, federal subsidisation of batteries is an absolute no-brainer. You're fighting that fight, John, so we're supporting you, mate, every step of the way. Let us know what we can do to support that battle, because we completely agree with you, and it's the only thing stopping batteries from accelerating, right, in terms of distribution and utilisation. Mate, let's get on to something else, which I know is very close to your heart, and something I'm a massive fan of as well, which is the Smart Energy Expo, which is coming up very soon, in fact, in March. Look, first and foremost, I know you're looking forward to all of it. It's your gig. It's when you get to showcase everything that the Smart Energy Council has been working on and get the whole industry together in a slightly different format. And as I said, you guys are literally fighting the fight, which I love. So I can see that inside of almost the dynamic when you listen to the speakers and different expert presentations and whatnot. But first and foremost, what are you looking forward to most about this year's Smart Energy Expo?
Well, the thing that I really love about it is that this is the only big event in Australia that's by industry for industry. It's owned by the Smart Energy Council. All of the revenue that comes in actually helps boost our campaign. So, for every supporter that we have there, it's more resources for us to really execute against our mission, dangerous climate change, mate, and kind of really transforming Australia's energy outlook. So that's the first thing. The other shows, like All Energy, they're owned by big overseas event companies, right? They make millions of dollars a year, and the profits go to shareholders in the UK and other places around the world, right? So it's a clear difference between the two. But for me, it's great because it is a free of charge event, and it's open to industry and it's open to the public. So if you've got people in your network who are interested in this, it's at Darling Harbour at the International Convention Centre in Sydney. It's the 6th and 7th of March, so 2 full days of program. Over 150 exhibitors there. It's a huge exhibition, but also great conference content, 3 concurrent streams. So there are effectively 6 mini conferences over the 2 days, something for everyone. So if you're interested in policy, if you're interested in if you're an installer and you want technical training, CPD point training, you want to understand what's happening with the accreditation scheme, you want to understand what's happening with the whole ecosystem, they've got content for you. If you're into renewable hydrogen, we've got a day dedicated to renewable hydrogen. If you want to come along and hear some really great people like Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen, New South Wales Energy Minister Penny Sharp, and a whole bunch of others, we've got that for you. So whether you're new to the industry and you want to go from 0 to 102 days, or you're an old hand who's really there to get kind of a particular outcome, there's something for everyone, completely free of charge. Love to see you there, and really looking forward to the event.
And for anyone who's watching this podcast, as you can see below, streaming is the link to register for the event, and I'll also put it into the actual context when we distribute this via social. John, there is so much going on at this year's Smart Energy, and I had a look through earlier, looked at all the different streams. I think I lost count of speakers when I got to 100, and as you said, probably over 150 exhibitions as well, with people exhibiting. What advice would you give anyone who hasn't been to Smart Energy before for their 2 days? I mean, how would you recommend they use those 2 days?
There are 3 things that I do. First, pick the eyes out of the program. So sit down beforehand. The program's getting more and more detailed every day, and the next day or so we'll release an even more detailed version. So really hone in what are the sessions going to be most interest to you, and block them in. Second, leave time to walk the floor, because it's extraordinary what you find on the floor, right? New products, new innovation, electric vehicles, electric vehicle chargers. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. And the technology is changing so quickly that kind of market intelligence, product intelligence is really useful. The third thing is take advantage of the side events. So inside the Smart Energy Council program, there's a whole bunch of side events, people doing. So for example, we're doing a session on our gender action plan. This is about empowering more women to come into our workforce. Rosh, here's a terrible statistic. Did you know only 2% of solar installers in this country are female, right?
Yeah,
That is indefensible. How do we transition our whole economy if we don't include the whole workforce in that transition? So there's some really exciting things there. And then there's a whole bunch of things that happen. Like a lot of people have, dinners and drinks and things that you can go to. Often they're free of charge. So make the most of it. It's a festival of ideas and opportunity. Dig in, bring plenty of business cards. The other thing is you just don't know who you're going to run into in the hallway, right? So it's a fantastic way to reconnect and be part of the whole movement that we're supporting.
Completely. Look, and I know a whole bunch of our colleagues and partners, and especially inside of the installers and retailer network. I mean, these events are the reason why we're in the industry, because it's just an opportunity to do what we do. We all have to make a difference and see the impact of what we're doing on the roofs and on the homes, on the businesses that we help and support. But then when you get together with your peers and share those stories, you'll learn so much more. And it's a really good opportunity just to share and to ask questions. I think one of the biggest realizations I had attending the conference was really a couple of years ago, where before I just go along to have a look at the latest technology, listen to some speakers, but actually going there with a strategy, with a mindset of, this is what I need, this is what I want to learn, this is what I want to understand, these are the things I want to work on inside my business plan for my company. Now, how can I utilize this event to assist me with that? And by going in there kind of very open, obviously have some structure in that strategy, but then just be open to what's going to come at you. And it's absolutely incredible. I mean, you literally are, it's almost like doing a degree in a couple of days. The amount of knowledge and education and incredible speakers, and as you highlighted, for free. Okay, so it's not like you're spending $1,000 or $2,000, which is ordinarily what you would spend to listen to the caliber of these speakers. You're getting that for free. So it's I can't wait. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And Rosh, you've hit the nail on the head. The people in our industry are the best people. They're great people, right? It's a real community, and you forget when you're out on your own, slogging away, you forget the really great people and characters in our industry, and the customers too. They really want to see a change. So yeah, it's a great place. Look, I wouldn't do anything else, Rosh.
Good man. Well, John, I'm glad you won't, because I certainly want to chat to more of you in the future, And also, as you know, we work in a number of different TV shows. We're actually producing our own show, which is going to be pre-production at the moment. We're looking to start production probably mid-year. I'd like to officially invite you for a few seconds to be in one of the episodes and to just share your views.
Absolutely delighted. Congratulations. And Rosh, to you and to the leadership of Energy Matters, this type of format, this information for the community and for the industry, absolutely vital. All power to your arm, mate, and really love your work.
Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure chatting to you. I'll see you in a few weeks' time at Smart Energy.
Good on you. All the best.
Great. Thanks, mate. So, guys, you heard it here first. Look, John Grimes, what an absolute legend, industry legend, and such an advocate for the zero carbon future. We love him. Make sure if you are going to be in Sydney, you do come in and attend this event. It's on the 6th and 7th of March at Darling Harbour at the ICC. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And look, once again, it's even if you're just new in the industry or an old hand, it's just a good way of getting your skills up and understanding who's who in the zoo and really building a vital network. So we certainly do recommend you come. For anyone watching at home, if you haven't got solar power yet on your home or on your business, it's never too late. Jump onto our website, energymatters.com.au/solar-quotes and request a quote for solar power. Understand the industry changes significantly every single year, every few months. So even if you had a quote in the past and it wasn't for you, get another one and see what's available today and how it can assist you. Thank you very much for listening and or watching us today. We appreciate your time, and we can't wait to see you at the next episode. All the best for now and have a fantastic week.